Welcome to the Course in the Chaos. My name is Blake. I'm with Jack and Grayson tonight. We are back after our Christmas break. We're kind of coming to the end of season 2. It's not really the halfway point, but we wanted to take some time off for Christmas and some of those things. But we're coming near the end of season 2, really looking at the subject matter of common struggles of the Christian life. And so for a few housekeeping items, we want to encourage you that if you have found this podcast to be beneficial, then please share it with some friends. We would love to have more listeners, more people that, again, find this beneficial. You can get it on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. And some of the benefits of like YouTube, for example, is that you can see the video or you can just listen to us, whatever you would like to do. So tonight's subject is one... Oh, hold on a second.
What's that?
Well, I've got to check my phone here.
Oh,
getting some likes and some follows
and some shares
and some shares.
Little CWB.
It'll be just a moment.
Okay.
No. So tonight, our podcast episode is on social media addiction. And I was not actually getting. I'm pretty sure those are IM sounds, aren't they?
I don't know. I found it.
Was that the sound? Yeah, that was the instant messenger sound from. Yeah,
from like
you've got mail.
1998 or something.
Sorry, guys, my mom has to use the phone. I have to get off. Yeah. No, but social media addiction, and of course, this is something that we've talked about it, and as we were planning this, there's a certain irony that, of course, a social media page is talking about concerns of social media addiction and things like that. As we have talked about this, and as we have known each other and run various social media pages and done different, kind of projects and things that we've thrown ourselves into. I call them projects to make it sound like it's more official and better for us than it probably really is. Yeah. But we watch ourselves closely. In fact, there's been times, and one of the joys and benefits of having three of us is that if one of us just needs to step away for a little bit, then that works, and we have the opportunity to do that. I think we do a good job of kind of holding each other accountable on those things and helping each other out if we need to step away and those kinds of things. So we'd like to kind of preface all of this conversation that way, that this is not something that we are immune to, that it is something that has, again, at various times where I think each of us have said like, okay, I got to step away for a little bit.
Yeah.
And even when putting this outline together, I was like, I wonder if it's time to, take a break for a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
But I'm always kind of thinking it's time to take a break, which is, I don't know, maybe indicative of some of the content we'll talk about.
This podcast is sponsored by Jack Lee. Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding.
By Jack Lee for Jack Lee.
Yeah. I'm going to go listen to it like 4 times in a row.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, truthfully,
just be sure to comment so it spreads around,
I think we live in an age where this is a common struggle for literally anybody who's alive right now. So for the person who says, I have no problem with social media, it's either you're off of social media entirely or you're lying, I think. And I don't mean to be blunt as far as like just being a jerk, but it's literally in your face every single day of the week. And the entire platform, whatever platform you choose, is literally designed to get you hook, line, and sinker back to it.
Except Truth Social.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on. Yeah, there's only one social program, Truth Social.
Truth Social.
I don't even know what that is.
That's Trump's, right? I was saying that kind of... I think that's Trump's.
What was that alternative? Oh, I was going to say, yeah. What was that alternative one that all the conservatives were supposed to run to?
I think it's Truth Social. I might be missing.
Yeah.
Social media is an interesting thing, though, because if you think back, I mean, it's facilitated so much of our interaction, the entire Facebook page and all this stuff. Like, social media has done a lot of incredible things. And we have people email us, reach out to us regularly saying, hey, this was really helpful. This was really, I mean, it's being leveraged in good ways. So it's not a complete dumpster fire, else we wouldn't be on there. But there is certainly some risk. It is to borrow that phrase which gets used way too much, it's a slippery slope, because you can so quickly go from the little tiny part that's good and end up in the vast ocean of just debauchery and awful.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
right.
I was
And not just
thinking about
in
this
your heart,
today.
right?
Well, I was thinking about that today in terms of content and the heart. You look at the book of Proverbs and how easily the fool is led into the lair of the adulteress or the harlot. And we didn't touch on this in the outline at all, but it's one of those things that I think in our day and age, you don't even have to try in that kind of reality. So how many people are literally committing adulterous affairs, but they're just not brave enough to actually go do it physically. It's all accessible via the internet very, very easily on any social media platform you go on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's just one of those
things. Right. And that's one leg of it. And it's what we've said before, that you don't have to be looking for trouble. Trouble's looking for you.
Yep.
And there are entire, as we're talking about this, and we talk about the dangers of social media and social media addiction, like any addiction or anything product that is pushed or anything like that, there's a whole world of marketing and things that goes into the sole purpose of making you addicted, and keeping you coming back and scrolling and spending your time and checking your phone and all these, things that we'll talk about. But it's not just like, these things are not accidental. They are, millions and millions and millions of dollars goes into advertising and keeping you coming back and checking and scrolling, and algorithms that are putting things, that you want to see, or they think that you want to see, in front of you.
Yeah, you think about something, and then like 2 days later, there's an ad for that, whatever that is.
Right,
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how clever they're getting. Is it's and it goes into that. There's the big thing now is AI, right?
Right.
And one day, like 15 years from now, someone's going to listen to this episode, and we'll talk about AI, and they'll be like, "Well, what a bunch of so dated, what a bunch of nerd."
Yeah.
But the whole emerging thing now is AI, and it's this machine learning. It's this ability to think at rapid pace like a person, so it can take all this data. It can look at all these habits, everything that you click on, study even down to your eyes. Like how much time is you're scrolling by? And
things that you pause on in your scroll. It
catches that. And then it says, well, if you like this, you will like this. You will like this. And it's constantly getting better and better and better. And all the more reason for Christians to be aware of that, to be nimble, to be diligent and absolutely disciplined in how you approach social media, and what you're putting in front of your eyes.
Right. Yeah. I think it's kind of like if you've ever tried, if you've ever been through the battle of the bulge and you're trying to lose weight, and things like that, how you become keenly aware of like the ingredients in your food and things. And one of the first steps then of battling food addiction or whatever the thing may be is assessing, well, what's going into this that keeps, pulling me back. And so for you to be mindful of things like that and like a dietary change, but not be mindful of, well, how is media pulling me in? How is it addicting me? Or being addictive and things like that is just silly. You want to make sure that you're thinking soberly, as Scripture tells us, and to look at things the way that they actually are. And again, we're not condemning social media, just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But this is really an episode where we're saying there are dangers here. This is dangerous water, and so we're trying to,
dangerous water, dangerous baby.
Yeah,
you gotta be careful.
Oh, are you laughing about the?
I was laughing because you said we're not condemning it, and I was like, not yet. And then Grayson smiled.
Yeah.
Grayson smiled, which made me smile, and you just kept going like it didn't happen.
It's like we just all of a sudden lost it.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, there goes 10 minutes.
Yeah, and Blake's monologuing through the whole thing. Yeah.
No, but you're exactly right, Blake. It's not inherently evil, but it's certainly risky.
Right. And so we just hope in all of this that you're, that you just would have some honest heart introspection, And again, we don't want to like bind your conscience, but rather we just want to lay forth some of these concerns and let you evaluate, if these things are true of you, because they may not be, but they may very well be also. So,
Yeah.
And then the other thing to note is that go ahead, Grayson.
I was just going to say, I think of Romans 12, 1 and 2, right? Paul talks about the idea of being transformed by the renewal of your minds, that you might offer up yourselves as a well-pleasing sacrifice to God. But there's this aspect of it where the verb tense of the Greek is actually, there's this active part in which we are conformed to this world, but there's also a passive part, and that's by and large what he's focusing on, is the passive aspect. And I think there's just ways where we're pressed into the mold where we don't quite necessarily understand how deep that goes, or how quickly it actually happens. Yeah. And social media is just one of those many ways it actually happens to us.
Right.
That's all I was going to add there.
Well, and because I think that's a good point, and because it is there's mind involvement there. And so as we're talking about, not being conformed to the world, but then having your mind, renewed, again, there are spiritual things even at play. Like we don't want to reduce it just to accident or just to marketing or anything like that. There are spiritual things at play in any kind of an addictive situation and things like that. And you can be having your mind just, mushed up by worldliness and not even really realize that it's actually happening if you're not aware of what's going on around you. Again, that's why in verse 3 of chapter 12, we're called to think soberly, think of ourselves soberly, and not say, well, this is dumb, this isn't going to affect me, or this is such a minor thing. Because there's a big risk, I think, of listening to something like this and say, with all the problems in the world and so many things going on, why would we worry about this? There's much bigger things to worry about. I mean, you've heard, arguments and things like that about other things. And so, again, we're just saying with the amount of time, and Jack will get some statistics and stuff for us that he found that are very interesting. But if you're not careful, the amount of time that the average person spends on social media, you are in dangerous waters.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. All right. So our plan here, as Blake kind of alluded to, we hope that you do some introspection. Just listen, do some hard evaluation here as we kind of talk about these. Because what we want to do is talk about, isolate and walk through various struggles and dangers of social media. We'll kind of pick them one by one. And I'll freely admit, some of these are going to overlap. They're not completely, operate in a vacuum. But we'll look at all these different struggles, dangers of social media. And again, just listen to this, sit back, relax, sip a cup of half and half Chick-fil-A tea, whatever you do. And
I thought you were going to stop at half and half.
Yeah, just a cup of creamer.
Half and half.
Go full dairy.
You got some full fat cream.
Get that insulin spiked and listen up.
This is a different form of an Arnold Palmer, half and half, and sweet tea.
She sounds kind of good.
You just started a trend in the Deep South.
Yeah, there you go.
It's called the chaos in the chorus. Is what that is. That trend. Anyway,
Mama, get the half.
Okay, so struggle or danger number one of social media, as we've already alluded to. I would say the addiction aspect, right? It's kind of obvious, but this ability for social media to just take control of our minds and bodies, and that's what addictions do. Like you become compulsive. Like maybe you've done this where you just pick up your phone and you open social media. You don't even see the notifications. You just like reflexes. Oh, slide up and look at Facebook or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
It's this ability where it just conditions you to where it is a completely normal part of your life, and it's pulling you away from other things, which we'll get into. And you might say, well, that doesn't happen to me. Well,
I mean, I could even speak to that. Like, there's been times where I'm like, okay, I just got to take a break. And that first day that you like uninstall Facebook from your phone, how many times
you just
mindlessly grab the phone like, oh, that's right. I'm
swipe over 3 times and there's nothing there.
Wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
Or you feel the phantom buzz,
Yeah.
Like your phone doesn't even go off, but you're like, oh, maybe did it? Did I feel it? Did I get a notification? Well,
Blake, listen to this statistic.
Okay.
The average person, by the way, a lot of these statistics were through Google and different things. I want to give a lot of credit to Tony Rinke from his book 17. I think it's 17 Ways Your Phone is Changing You. He wrote it or 12 Ways Your Phone is Changing You. He wrote that in 2017. I brought a lot from that book for the structure and looking at these dangers. These statistics I found were true as of 2023. So even though it's a great book, by the way, strongly recommend it. Yes. Very, very relevant because it deals more with hard issues and specific, social media. Great book, Tony Rinke. But anyway, the average person checks their phone 144 times a day, and it's increasing yearly. 144. It means you pick up your phone and you look at it 144 times a day. Half of our time, and just say, well, that's not just social media. Well, statistically, half of our time spent on our phones is social media and increasing. And if you say, well, how many people are on social media? About 60% of the world's population is active on social media, with 4.76 billion social media users.
That's crazy. I mean, you think about it. I mean, third world countries that literally have no access to fresh water, and yet they have access to Facebook.
And I've seen that. You see these pictures in films in like third world countries, and you see people who are very, very poor. You can tell they're poor, and they've all got phones, and they're videotaping some fight or just whatever they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
But you cannot deny the fact that as a society, we are becoming slaves and addicts to our phones. And social media is a core, if not the main driver of that.
Right.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I think of, you think of how many people would rely upon newspapers or something else to get their literally fresh information on a daily basis. Now nobody goes to that.
Yeah.
If anything, you might go to someplace like the Drudge Report or like the, Not the Bee or something like that. But most people are going to Twitter or some other place like that to just simply see what is the fresh thing coming out that day. And that in and of itself is crazy.
Yeah. 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 And Blake, I'm totally with you. I've done the same thing where I habitually pick up my phone and just,
Right.
oh, what am I doing? I don't even,
It shows, and it shows you like, even if you go into like a time away from social media and you think like, man, this is like starting to be a problem in my life, or I just have so much other stuff going on that I just need to cut some things out. It is very telling, at least to me, of how often you just go to check it without even thinking about it. And maybe that's a unique problem to me and Jack and maybe Grayson, but
4.76 billion other people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that one statistic that you had written down, Jack, that the time that you do spend on your phone, that over half of it is on social media.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's increasing. And increasing year over year. Like it's not leveling off either.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because there's more things and more ways and easier and more people using it. And then I imagine too that those statistics will shift as older generations die off and the people that were born into the social media age are
because these are averages, so it's taken into account a lot of the elderly. So if you were, I don't have it in front of me, but I could almost guarantee if you took the average, compared the average, say 60-year-old with an 18-year-old, like they're going to be drastically different. But
maybe different if Farmville was still up and going.
Or Candy Crush, one of those.
The greatest game of all time, Candy Crush.
Please stop sending me invites to Candy Crush.
So Paul said in 1 Corinthians 6:12, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be dominated by anything. And I think that what Paul has in mind here, you guys feel free to speak to this, but this idea of something controlling you, being a slave to anything, so especially addiction, but anything other than being a slave to Christ. And when I was putting this together, I started with that verse, and it's just like, man, to what level am I conditioning myself to be a slave to these things? And it's tough because in a sense we're doing that. Like Blake, you and I both commented on it. Like we pick up our phones and do it. Like it's controlling us in a sense.
Right.
Yep.
And it's tough.
There's an additional pressure too, which I don't know if we'll talk about or not, or if it's I don't remember reading it. There is an additional pressure from society as well.
Yeah.
That for you to not be on social media is very strange.
Very
like
weird.
to not be readily available, not to be seeing everything that is going on. And even I think it's even changed things like pastorally too. Because all the time I have people, ask me like, well, did you see on Facebook, or did you see, this, or did you see that, whatever. And so there's almost this expectation that you are supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And that if you're not, then somehow you're, potentially even, derelict in care, or in wanting to know what's going on in the world, or, things like that, for wanting a smaller vision of the world. You would be seen as strange because there's just that pressure from the outside.
Well, I mean, unfriend somebody on Facebook and what happens immediately, especially if you know them in real life, where they're like, hey, I saw you unfriended me. Is everything okay?
That's why you should always let them know why you're unfriending them first.
Yes. I was
this
just
post was dumb and you're being dumb. Unlike, right.
Your theology is bad and you should feel bad.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You've been unfriended because of weak theology.
Yeah.
I don't know. The course in
there's
chaos T-shirt shop.
There's a reality to that where it's like, if you're not connected on social media, then how are you true friends? And that I think speaks volumes to even just in one sense what I would say is an epidemic of social media, where you literally can't get beyond that aspect of it. If we're not friends on Facebook, then we're not real friends. And there's also this weird attachment so you can have from, the glory days of high school, whatever you want to call them, where you hold on to friendships. It's like, we haven't talked to each other in 15 years, and yet we're quote unquote friends.
Right.
And how much of that, it's like the equivalent of Stanley Nichols to Shroot Bucks, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great segue to number 2. Oh, what were you gonna say, Blake?
Well, I was gonna say I think there's it's built into the program is a superficiality that even when you're talking about you're unfriending someone, that you can see the clever the marketing strategy here. Okay, so say you can't unfollow someone, but you have to unfriend them to stop seeing their stuff. Well, you might just get worked up to the point, maybe you have some theologically liberal or politically liberal folks and things you don't want to see. So you're just like, I'm done with social media. I don't want to see it. And then that way social media loses a user, right? Mm-hmm. But instead of allowing that to happen, what you can do is you can simply be friends with someone, but you can unfollow them.
Yeah.
And then they can unfollow you. And so you have the ability to see only the things that you want. You don't have to hurt anybody's feelings or have any conflict. You can be friends, yet never interact. And what they have done is they have maintained two social media users. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine if that worked in real life, where you're like, hey, I'm just going to snooze for 30 days.
Right. Yeah, right. We're still friends, but I'm snoozing you. All right.
Yeah.
I've never thought about how passive aggressive that really is. Like,
right.
It's just so passive aggressive.
So it's pretty wild. But again, when you start thinking about it like that, it's like, okay, this is intentional.
Yeah.
And it's built on superficiality.
Yeah.
So many people say like, oh, social media has connected so many people, but has it really connected people?
Yeah. And that's number 2 here. It's we've already kind of been talking about the false and shallow relationships. Social media gives this appearance of connection, but it's like a facade in so many cases, because you're not really connected, right? Oh, I unfollowed you, but we're still friends. Oh, are you friends with so and so? Oh, yeah, we met at a theological conference 19 years ago, and we're
right. Shout out to that guy. Yeah. Right.
I'll bring up, because I travel for work and I'm in airports, and it's wild the impact that phones have at the airport. Like, next time you go to the airport, commit to not pulling your phone out.
Well,
Yeah,
I've
you
got
will be a
little kids, so
weirdo.
I'm not going to be on my phone in the airport anyway.
Well, half
I'm
the
just
time
saying,
I'm
but-
either like I'm people watching, so I mean that half is easy because people are fascinating, right? So you
Well,
don't.
then you're
It's
better
like
than
you've
me.
got your
but-
own fail videos right there in real life. You could
That's
just watch
true.
people.
But if you just sit there, no one talks.
And you could start your own social media page
Yeah,
with those
there
fail
you go.
videos. Yeah, right.
You can
right.
make buku bucks
Right.
and
Marketing. Yeah. See how it's
subscribe
changed.
to the-
See how it's changed.
Subscribe to the Chorus and the Chaos, and we'll give you the other 15 tips on how to.
Yeah, exactly.
this
Exactly.
is the bonus content.
Yeah. So kind of the Wyoming thing though is so it gives that facade of connection, and then in reality, what you're experiencing, in a lot of cases, maybe not every case, is greater isolation.
Yeah.
And that's what you mentioned, about the airport. You think if you have a big family gathering, and maybe, I don't know what your family situation is or, whatever. But there's usually always somebody, whether it's an angst teen or, somebody, that's, some relative that's in their 30 teens right now and just still no one understands them, just sitting on the couch. I mean, they're just in their phone, in social media, whatever, and they're missing everything that's going on around them. The conversation that's going on around them,
Yeah.
people that are, that they may not see again, that they may not, whatever. And so though you may feel connected to your people online, you're missing a lot of times life that's going on around you. I think about parents, and I would slap myself on the wrist in this category as well. I wonder how much time we miss with our children, and things because we're on our phones. Just wanting to unwind, just wanting to relax a little bit, and
if
not
you wonder if you
actually
have
being
a
there.
problem with social media, simply ask your kids, do I spend too much time on my phone? They will be brutally honest with you. And
Right. And then when they say what you don't want to hear, you ground them.
Yeah. Go to your room so daddy can look on his phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you guys
Bad
know
advice.
last year? Here's a statistic for you. Last year, the Surgeon General officially noted and released a statement basically saying scientifically, I don't know who knows what that means anymore, but if you're on social media more than 3 hours,
pre-COVID scientifically or post-COVID scientifically?
This is post-COVID science. So yeah, take it with
dubious
a
at
grain of
best.
salt. Yeah.
Can
So
the
maybe,
science
like-
be trusted?
Divide these numbers in half or use whatever science, post-COVID science multiple you want. But the Surgeon General noted that teens who use social media more than 3 hours a day, which I would say are most of teens, are twice as likely to experience depression and anxiety.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
totally believe it. Believe it.
Oh, sure.
Well, think of all the things they're faced with literally on a daily basis. You're just inundated with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a quote that I wanted to work in at some point. I literally could not find it, but there's a guy, Richard Caldwell, Baptist preacher, talked about the reality of just how much we are inundated with the world's news on a daily basis. Think about beyond just the news, but all the different things that are flying at your face every single day, and how it creates this fake omniscience in a sense of, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast here. But I think that's something that contributes to it, is because the way our societal pressures work is that you are supposed to feel bad about every last one of these different things going on in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Realistically, how can you?
Right. Right. And including your own life. You're supposed to feel bad about your own life. I mean, particularly with kids, like the kids that we work with, and I've had this conversation with, dozens of kids, and it's frightening. Ask a kid, in between the age, I don't know, say 8 and 14. Let's take that as a pool, and ask them what they want to do when they grow up. And the most common answer that I have personally heard, like this is a Blake statistic, I guess, has been, I want to be a YouTube star.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's happening is there's these social media connections where you see these grand lives that these YouTube stars are living, and the kid gets flooded with that and says, that's the life that I want. Like, that is an achievable, obtainable thing that I'm going to get paid millions of dollars for playing Minecraft or whatever, whatever the thing is. But that's not just limited to kids, because adults, the same kind of thing happens. I mean, I could definitely see where anxiety and depression and all these other things come an issue, because you're looking at so-and-so's vacation and such did this and they have this and do that. And look at how wonderful and picture perfect their family is and how messed up my family is, and on and on and on it goes. And if you're being hit with that hours every single day, how do you not become down or cynical or any of those things?
Yeah. Well, I'm you think about... Sorry, go ahead, Jack.
Go ahead, Greg. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you think about the different ones we've talked about before, as far as contentment, bitterness, envy, all that kind of different thing. Mm-hmm. Social media presents a very slanted picture of reality. So you see the best angle all the time. You never see the point when they pooped up the back of the diaper, and it's like everybody's screaming, because that just doesn't make for a good social media picture, right?
Yeah.
But that's the reality. Is you get a very sanitized view of what life actually looks like, and then as you're in the trenches, you're looking at things saying, "Why is my life so disheveled?"
Rarely does the double chin make the social media post.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, today's day and age, it's like that's healthy. There's all sorts of different things that are just being pushed front and center. But the reality is, when we come down to it, none of these things are a supplement for actual face-to-face relationships on a daily basis. I mean, you just cannot supplant genuine relationships with people.
Right. And that's to kind of bring this back spiritual. That's what we were created. From creation, God established face-to-face contact and relationships. I mean, letters obviously can supplement. I don't want to belittle that. The Bible is flush with letters and epistles and things.
Right.
But they were never meant as an outright replacement for face-to-face. In fact, I've got some verses here, but there's a number of places where Paul is like, he writes a letter, but he's saying over and over, "I wish I were with you. I can't wait to see you."
I'm coming there. Like, I'm still working on coming to you, or I'm sending so-and-so to you. Exactly. Yeah. So there's even a recognition there.
Yeah. That one facilitates another.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess that you're kind of listening to this, maybe ask yourself, introspective heart kind of work here. Are you avoiding God-given relationships that God has ordained, right? That God has put you,
which are
like family. We talked about kids and family, right?
Yep.
Church,
spouse,
neighbors, spouse, all these people that God has providentially put in your life to be a part of. Are you avoiding or ignoring them, or not giving them the attention that they're due, because you're looking at your middle school buddies, trucks or something? I don't know what you're looking at.
Look at that bass he just caught.
Yeah, whatever it is.
That guy I haven't talked to in 20 years. I think that's actually a really great filter. So as you're listening to this and you're thinking like, well, do I have a social media addiction and things? Are you abusing or forsaking relationships in your life now, so that you can spend time on social media? If the answer is yes, then obviously there's something that needs to be addressed there for sure. Yeah. So that's a really great filter.
There's a host of ways that can be done, right? It's not that you're necessarily just a shut-in and you're avoiding contact with any and all people, but again, think about how you spend the time with the people you are face-to-face with. Are you buried in the phone? Do you signal to them, "I'm bored with this conversation, so I'm going to scroll through social media as I have you over for dinner"? Are you pushing your kids off to the side because, again, you have to scroll through the feed? Whatever the case might look like. I mean, it could be radically different, but if you're constantly fixated upon the thing that actually, the haptics, the sounds, all that kind of junk, that's driving you back to pick up your phone and look at your hand, so to speak. There you go. Just like that.
Hold on a second.
Hold on a second. Yeah. Well, it's like if that's what your time with genuine in the flesh people looks like, is that, I think about how crazy that is.
It's not good.
I mean,
it's not good.
It's like we don't think of that in any sense as we're doing it. But if you were to just take a step back and watch that interaction, I mean, look at people at restaurants and see that couple who sits down and how much time are they genuinely spending with each other? They're there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The married couple, how much time are they spending before bedtime actually just talking as they put the kids to bed and processing through the day, praying with each other and talking about all the different things that they wouldn't have time to normally? Or do they just kind of roll over, turn a shoulder to each other and scroll? Again, we're not looking at it and saying there's no place for any of this. It's just a reality of saying how much of our time is invested in that.
Yeah. And you could even filter it with good things and better things. If you're forsaking the better things for something that's good or fun, then it's become a problem,
Yeah.
And so that's all we're saying. I do think Jack wrote these down. I know we kind of mentioned it already, but I just really love this whole thought here. Okay. So just buckle in for a second here. Romans 1:11-12. Paul's writing, the church in Rome, obviously. I long to see you, that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to strengthen you. That is, that we may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith, both yours and mine. Again, Paul didn't just say, well, guys, let's just keep this a pen pal relationship. You send me a letter, I'll send you a letter, and we'll do it that way. No, it's like I want to be face-to-face with you. And when you are face-to-face with others, you can be mutually encouraged. How about 1 Thessalonians 3:2? And we sent Timothy, our brother and God's co-worker in the gospel of Christ, to establish and exhort you in your faith. 1 Thessalonians 3:10, as we pray most earnestly night and day, that we may see your face to face and supply what is lacking in your faith. John 13:14-16, if I then, the Lord and teacher, washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I gave you an example that you also should do as I did. So this can start a trend of messaging someone a video of you washing their feet or something. I don't know. I've washed your feet, brother, as the Lord has done. No, I mean, obviously there has to be even in the thought of service, okay, it's togetherness is required for that to take place. Well, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. Mark 12:31.
Think again of 1 Corinthians 13:12. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, just as I have been fully known. Right? The hope of the Christian life is not that we will see God via text, but that we will literally behold our Savior face to face, and He shall wipe away every mean tweet. Right? No.
Right now we are seeing Him via text of Scripture, but soon we will see Him face to face. Send that to print. That's good. Jack's just like, no, I hate that.
I was taking it in.
Hey, you know what? If you put that, you write that out, throw like a word art of Snoopy on there. That's like a 5 million share boomer meme right there.
And we could turn it into a reel and a story and 6 memes.
Yeah. Yep. Like if you love.
All right, expect to see that on the page. Yeah.
Yeah. Ignore if you are for Satan.
Yeah. Share with 10 friends if your favorite text message is the word of God.
Yeah.
That's how you grow a social media account, right there.
Yeah. See, we've been in it too long, boys. We've been in it too long. We got to get out.
Now's the time. We're done.
No.
Yeah. So there's some other dangers of social media that we should talk about.
Let me say too. That this one for us, because we have a lot of friends, mutual friends who run social media pages. And we don't, obviously we're the chorus and the chaos. We've told you our names. Like we have a name, but we're people underneath them, and we're on video. Like we're not hiding that. There are a lot of social media pages where I always struggle saying, I always say this word bad.
Anonymity.
Anonymity. I always say anonymity is what I want to say.
Anonymity.
I know that's not right.
It's like the Animaniacs. And there's Argentina.
Anonymity. Can't say that word right now. But say it again, Blake. The
anonymity.
The anonymity.
Oh, I think me and Grayson say it differently too.
Anonymity.
Anonymity, whatever.
Oh, see, no more I'm thinking about it. My mind's like, no. Yeah,
I've been to college. I have
it's
a degree.
Like,
right.
Finding Nemo is like,
It's like there's a danger of running a social media page where you are anonymous.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And particularly if you lack accountability in that.
We have a lot of friends who run other Christian social media pages, and they operate on that principle. They don't say who they are, and that's fine, right? I think there's, we hold each other accountable to a point, at least internally, and I think some of our mutual friends we do as well to a point. But the point that I want to make here is that social media gives you, interestingly enough, it creates the ability for people to act badly with no consequence or accountability. You can create a burner profile or whatever it is and say all the hateful, mean things you want to say, and no one knows it's you. You can mock people, whatever it is, and get away with it completely.
I was just thinking about that guy.
Temporarily.
There was a guy who he's connected through various people that we all know. If you're Calvinist, you've been part of the Reformed Pub and all that kind of stuff. He created an Anon account and basically
pub lore, old Reformed pub lore.
Well, actually,
I know you're talking about.
Not Mr.
I don't want to say
Walters.
his name, but...
I was thinking about a different person, actually. But that brings up a whole new thing. I mean, it was along the same line. So where
Jack's like, we don't want to. No, not pub lore. Please.
It's like. It's that wiry little dog with the bombs going off in the background.
Yeah, right. This is fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, if you want pub lore, you have to go listen to the pubcast.
Yeah.
So.
But there was a guy who was
there's a
connected to some of those people who he was literally going around and creating his own weird off-brand of Christian porn. And I'm like, are you serious? But this guy, he was anonymous, and he was roping his wife into it. I mean, this is just dark stuff.
That's horrific.
But,
I didn't even know about this.
Oh, yeah. It to his credit, Les actually
dip my earbuds and sanitizer after this.
Yeah, Les Lanford, to his credit, found out who the guy was, contacted his local church, and the guy went under church discipline. I don't know whatever happened at that point, but there was a whole huge dust up with it. Oh yeah, it was nuts.
That's crazy. And the part of the thing that then creates that potential is again the ability to be anonymous, or seemingly anonymous.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
One of the this is kind of an offshoot, but one of the big things, one of the big wars against restaurant review sites, things like Yelp, Urban Spoon, things like that, is just the anonymity that somebody can go in and you can write whatever you want. I mean, it doesn't even have to be real about a restaurant, and that you can directly affect their score, their business, if people are going to go there and things like that. And I remember a number of years ago, at least in my state, there was kind of a movement of saying, we need to do something to at least make sure that if you're going to do a restaurant review, that it's actually you, that it's a real person, and that you have some kind of skin in the game. Because the reality is that if you are anonymous on Facebook, and we've seen this again and again, we've seen it with pages, we've seen it on with pastors, that have fallen from their platforms and things like that, is that to start an anonymous thing and say things that you would never normally say, that you wouldn't treat people in ways that you would never treat them, say things you would never normally say, act in ways that you would never normally act. There's a temptation there, and it's a fleshly one. It's a fleshly one because it feels good to be able to act wickedly and feel like you're getting away with it.
Yeah.
And so if you're not, over the years, I've become more firm on this. I don't know, because I can see that in myself, and I was talking to these guys about that before, is that I could see in myself the tendency, if there was complete anonymity, to say things that I wouldn't normally say, or be harsher than I would, be more harsh than I would, or more sarcastic than I would in real life, and things like that. So,
Blake, I'll just come out and say, I think in years, because the Chorus of Chaos has been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think I can almost certainly say I'm guilty of that at some point. Right.
I would say that about you too, Jack. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so would I.
I will.
If we're going to be completely candid here.
Right. If there was really ever an out of line comment, it was Jack.
Yeah,
just
always
from here
always
forward.
Yeah, right. Well, even 10 years ago forward, just to clarify.
Kidding. I'm perfectly liable. But
Did you guys always? I don't know this. Did you guys always have like your names out there, like from the very beginning?
Yeah, because we.
I guess so, because you were writing articles.
Yeah.
There
were so.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, but all that's what I was gonna say is I know I'm guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that I think I've gotten better at over time. This would be what I've learned just personally. I just don't respond. The page, the comments get so wild. Like I just get to where I don't respond much anymore. It's not, and I think it's safer for me, for my own heart in ways. But I don't know. I've learned a quiet answer, soft answer, as opposed to instigating wrath. But
I've tried back and forth different philosophies with it, largely just saying, okay, if I can be as objective as possible and just stick to the text or the argument, then great, let's do it. But at the same time, it's also so tiresome. I only have so much energy. And I would rather spend that time and energy on people who actually want to learn. I'm not saying that everybody who argues doesn't want to learn, but so much of social media.
But there is an error of social media that just wants to fight. Just wants to fight. Just wants to fight about things. Wants to argue about things. And I remember being in a phase of that. On social media of just wanting to argue and all those kinds of things. So, but the reality is that even if you protect your identity through this whole thing, through a burner account or whatever, or even if your identity's out there and you just feel safe sitting behind your keyboard, safe enough to insult people and act in ways that you wouldn't normally act. The reality is that all of us will give an account for every word, every action, and every meme.
Yes.
I like that you put that in there, Jack.
Every meme. Yeah.
There's no creature is hidden from him, but all things are naked and exposed to the eye of him to whom we must give an account. Hebrews 4:13.
Yeah.
Now, if we could just quote that before every post and every interaction online, social media would be a sweeter place. We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
That's
probably.
True.
Right?
That's true.
Well,
it would be a digital holy land.
The next one, Jack, that you included on there, this is the one that always hits me. But I tell you that men will give an account on the day of judgment. Literally. So end of all days. Here it goes. For every careless word they have spoken. Matthew 12:36. Every careless word. Not every nasty word, not every swear word, not every vile word, but every careless word. It's like, how many times have you just spoken without even thinking about it? And social media is that in a nutshell.
That's what I was going to say. 80% of that is social media. It's just careless words.
Right. Now I'm just going to be quiet the rest of this podcast.
We officially stopped Blake monologuing.
Goodbye.
Romans 14:12. So then more the same, but so then each of us will give an account of himself to God. So point being, you may think you're anonymous, person
but you're
out
not.
there,
Yeah,
but you're not. And
Christians know that better than anybody. Like, we should be the most well-behaved people on social media, and yet that is not often not the case.
So think of David. If I were to go down to the depths of the mountain, where would I hide? If I could find myself at the cliffs of the rocks, where would I go that escapes your sight, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every aspect of it is, if we believe God is truly omnipotent and omniscient and omnipresent, then every one of those things, in some ways, as much as it is a comfort to us, should also terrify us when we consider our sin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And accountability wise too, there's an extra danger when you have folks that, so say you're on, social media, you make a snarky comment or something like this. This is a common temptation for people to run, meme pages and things like that. Or even if you just have, a group of online friends that kind of follow and support everything that you say and do or whatever, is that when you have like a snarky comment or a reply or something like that, when there's a weight of hundreds of laugh reacts that get attached to that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, oh man, you really just drilled that guy, or whatever. Then that kind of thing, that just reinforces, it's this negative reinforcement of, a positive reinforcement in a negative way of, well, I have behaved righteously, or I have behaved justly, or at least comedically, to the point that I have,
that's my problem.
I mean, have you guys done that? Have you?
One.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you? Yeah.
Or
Have you looked like, oh, this guy, he only had 5 laugh reacts.
But I got 30.
I got 30.
I'm gonna wreck this guy's whole career.
Right.
And then you do it, and you're like, okay, there's your reward.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So if you're going to have accountability, make sure it's good and wise accountability.
Right.
People that'll actually hold you accountable, not just cheer on your bad
laugh
behavior.
react.
Yeah.
Right. And if somebody comes to you too, if you have a friend, a legitimate friend or a church member or something like that, because we've had to address people's social media activity in the church, like, hey, you posted something or you said something or, whatever, like what's going on there. Or if your spouse says, you need to, chill out online or maybe that time spent online that you get worked up. And so now you're just like walking around your house like, oh, that guy in Illinois that dared question Calvinism, or whatever, and like, so you're like worked up about some guy that's not even thinking about you, and it's affecting like your day and things like that. If somebody approaches you and says, hey, maybe this isn't the best thing for you, listen to that person. Don't think that you're God's gift to social media. Listen to your spouse, listen to your pastor, listen to your church members, listen to your friends and your family members and your children. Those are the voices that you need some, clarity, like they can give you some clarity.
Yeah. Again, I wonder if we could just dial back sometimes and really see the opposite end of things, right? You get into a knockdown, drag 'em out fight with somebody on social media and you're steaming, running around the living room. And then it pans back and this guy's sitting in his kitchen, literally by himself, just eating Cheerios with a smile on his face. Like, hey, it was a great day. Not even thinking about anything in your world. And you're like, I can't believe that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
You may have
and it's those kind of interactions that are they're just overall,
they're fruitless.
Just useless. Yeah. They're just useless. Yeah. And if it weren't for social media, I mean, you would never pen pal this guy back and forth, right? Some rando that you run into. Like, I'm gonna sit down and write a very pointed letter to this man about his theological persuasions. Like, you would never do that. So, like, those are good things. It's like, do I have to engage? Do I have to fill the space out? Do I have to argue and all those things? And the answer most of the time is no. That you can just scroll on or log off and go about your day.
Yeah.
So essentially,
a couple verses here on accountability.
I was about to just read one.
In the interest of time, I'll just read one.
Yeah.
And let us consider one another in order to provoke love and good works, not neglecting to gather, as some are doing the habit, but encouraging each other all the more as you see the day approaching. Like,
are you telling me that I can't gather with my church on social media instead of meeting in the body?
You have said so.
Yeah.
How many times have we had that conversation?
Oh, 1,000.
Yeah.
Go back to season one.
Yeah. Right. The go to church guys.
Yes. So the danger of anonymity, being anonymous is a real thing. Anonymity. So if you feel yourself tempted that way, if you've got like 6 burner accounts, this is a serious discussion, guys. This is a serious discussion.
That's true.
But if you leverage social media to act in ways that you typically wouldn't, if you have some facade, right? Again, these are we're expressing this. These are dangers and temptations of social media, and it may be something you want to evaluate your heart in.
Sorry.
And on that, delightful.
Somebody mute that man.
I lost it again. Just oh my gosh.
Oh man. So that we'll begin to wrap it up here. So that'll kind of conclude half one of our episode on social media. We're going to come back. We've got all these more dangers. These are dangers you want to dig into. So you guys stop laughing.
It's Grayson. It's Grayson's fault.
It's like one of those times where you have to be deadly serious and you can't. Yeah, it's like you're at a funeral and somehow somebody gets the giggles.
Yeah, right.
It
Oh my gosh!
Why are the giggles so contagious?
So next time we'll come back. We're going to come back with another episode on this, just because we're running out of time. And originally I thought this would be one episode, but there's I don't know. It's such an important topic.
Yeah,
there's so many people.
Right.
So we'll come back with another episode, and we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 more dangers for social media. So thanks so much for listening to Course in the Chaos. We'll be back soon. Blake, Grayson, any closing words?
Nope.
I was just going to say the big thing, I think, at least as we're going to this first one, is really find somebody who can hold you accountable to it. One of the reasons why I appreciate Jack so much and Blake too is that there have been countless times where I've looked at these brothers and just said, hey, can't record the podcast tonight, just got to spend time with family. Or they've done the same thing. Or Jack has said, I got to take a break from social media. And there's never been a point that I can remember where any one of them has said, you probably shouldn't do that. We got a page to run, we got this or that to do. Every single time. I mean, seriously, it's like every single time it's go rest, go take care of your family, go take care of stuff with the church. And that's what people need, is people who can point them back to, like a better way to put it, real reality in the midst of a digital age.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say too, we'll mention this next time, I'm sure. If you're hearing this and you have any questions about like, well, maybe I am addicted to social media or whatever, I would highly recommend, and this is good for anybody, even if you don't feel like you are addicted to social media, take a social media break.
Yeah. Set
some time out. Take 2 weeks and say, I'm going to delete my social media stuff, get it off my phone, get it off my computer, whatever, Instagram, Facebook, whatever your, thing is that you're on, whatever the kids are doing these days, Twitter or X, I guess it's called now. Or the Trump one that you're on, whatever.
Truth.
But
Truth
delete
social.
it. But delete it and just see what it does for you.
Yeah.
Your mind
see if you enjoy it.
Yeah, your mind will be clearer. You will find that you have more time on your hands. So if you've been struggling with things like scripture reading or reading, good Christian books or spending time with your family and things like that, you've just cleared, well, according to that statistic, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you really want to know, you can set up a thing on your phone to where it'll actually track your daily average spent on social media or whatever other apps you use. So you can set that up, and at the end of the week, you'll get a nice little alert telling you exactly how much time you've spent on everything. Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, don't just trade out social media for some other addiction. Like, well, I guess I'm playing Clash of Clans for 30 hours a week now, or something like that. And just see what it'll do. See what God will do with it. I think I've done that several times. I know these brothers have too, and it's very beneficial.
Every time. I love it. Yeah.
Yep.
It's good. So thanks so much for listening. We'll be back soon with more dangers of social media.
Of anonymity.
Yeah,